Hey, this is Ken Gerhard, cryptozoologist, and I'm here with my good friend and research partner, naturalist Lee Hales. And I'm excited, Lee, because we are here at Kettle Creek Vista, and we're here in the Sproul National Forest in north central Pennsylvania. Pretty remarkable area, as you can see.
It is.
But what's really cool in terms of my research is that, for years I've been documenting these so-called Thunderbirds, these monstrous birds that people have claimed to have sighted. And allegedly, from this particular location back in 1969, a gentleman named Albert Schoonover and some other road workers claimed that they saw this massive bird swoop down and pick up a fawn and carry it away right over here by Alvin Bush Dam, which is just out of frame. And, of course, this whole area here has a long history or tradition of these Thunderbird reports. So, what do you think?
It's an absolutely beautiful area. We have a lot of different birds here already. We can hear the crows today. They're the most prevalent. We've got reports of eagles that people have spotted. We have turkey vultures, for example, which don't even still come close to what you're talking about with a well over 4-foot wingspan.
Right.
And these are Native American folklore?
Well, there are Native American traditions that go back with the different Iroquois tribes, with the Susquehannock, which was kind of the local tribe in this area. Mm-hmm. So they would have these traditions of the Pinnace, which is basically a thunder being, and is typically portrayed in their legends as a gigantic bird. Mm-hmm. And as with many native traditions, there are different stories and tales that talk about the Pinnace. But what's interesting is that you have these modern accounts dating back to, the late 19th century. And then in the 1920s, 40s, 60s, and 70s, there were actually a lot of reports here in this region of people seeing these giant birds and estimated wingspans of 16, 20 feet, which is crazy compared to what we know inhabits this area. So
probably the biggest thing we would see close to that, besides the turkey vulture, is this is a migratory area.
Right.
So we could see a golden eagle on his way to points up in Canada. And although this is migratory season, you can see the colors are changing. Springtime, unfortunately, is a better time to catch them in this area.
That would make sense. So yeah, we'd be real lucky to see any type of eagle. We're hoping we'll see something like that this weekend or this week. You say golden eagle. I think a female golden eagle can have like a 7.5-foot wingspread, which is pretty darn big if you saw something like that up close. So it's hard to imagine anything twice that big.
Right.
But when you factor in the native legends and the accounts, it's it's at least intriguing and worth kind of checking out and exploring. So.
All right. Well, you never know.
All right.
Move on. Continue and see what we see.
Yes, sir. We got a lot of ground to cover. So I can't even express how excited I am to be here. This is where we are right now is ground zero for these Thunderbird stories that I've been reading about for decades. We're right here between Cowder's Point, Kettle Creek, Hammersley Fork, all these places I've read about where these stories have emanated. So as a cryptozoologist and just a general nerd, this is a lot of fun, man. I'm having a good time. Check out these trees.
Yeah, all these old growth pines. They're just like sentinels.
This is in Pennsylvania. This is freaking Pennsylvania. It's pretty cool. People don't visualize this kind of habitat.
Let's see what's down here.
Yeah. What were you saying?
I think the Jeep is just narrow enough to fit through here.
There aren't any signs saying you can't bring a Jeep across, right?
No, it says just don't go through the river.
Shit.
Just saying.
All right, so now we are at Hammersley Fork, which I've read for years that they're allegedly back in the 1940s, maybe the 50s, that there were people that lived in this general vicinity that would claim that they'd seen these big thunderbirds down here. And this is, you know, this is just a one section of Hammersley Fork, which cuts off of Kettle Creek, which we've kind of been following all the way up here. And I think there have also been alleged sightings at Kettle Creek. So
yeah, it's a very dense area, so
yeah.
You know, and it's difficult to really say where any good vantage points are, but it's very thick, and we're kind of in a valley right here, so you can see how things would be funneled right through this area.
And the obvious thing is there's a lot of things probably living in this water and also coming down to this water that eat those things.
And it's a good source of food. I'm sure there's fish, there's trout. There's a lot of signs, catch and release, so we know that this is a well-stocked trout and probably had native trout a long time ago.
Yeah, so, all right, the one thing I'll add is that the guy that, most of the accounts from this region came from a guy named Hiram S. Cranmer, who used to write letters to Fate magazine and others to talk about, and he lives in Renovo. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Renovo, which is very close by. And he was considered a bit of a storyteller, so I don't put as much credence behind his reports. And in fact, he claimed to have had his own sighting and estimated that this Thunderbird had a 35-foot wingspan, which is about twice as big as anything else that I typically hear about when I investigate these reports. People estimate 14 feet or 15. So anyways, but here we are, and we're going to go check out some more spots.
All right, let's go.
This is such a freaking amazing view, looking out here on the Black Forest late in the day. I mean, you can literally, like Lee said, you can probably see for 40 miles here. It's a little hazy, so, and the sun is kind of shining down on us, but this is kind of a dream of mine to check out potential habitat for these cryptid thunderbirds that have been reported from up here in Pennsylvania.
See those headlights now, it might be turned off.
So we're heading down or up Sheldon Hollow Road just before sunup. This is a pretty important location in terms of the Pennsylvania Thunderbird accounts. We'll talk about it more as I get to the spot. This is obviously a pretty remote road compared to, I mean, even in terms of what we've been looking at on this trip. This seems like a, wow. Yeah, this is a good spot.
That's a good tough back. Put her right down that road.
So this is cool. We are on Sheldon Hollow Road, just a few miles north of Coudersport, Pennsylvania, in Potter County. And this is the location of one of the most iconic Pennsylvania Thunderbird accounts. And that's because the sighting was allegedly made by a guy named Robert R. Lyman Sr., who was a local historian and naturalist. And according to Lyman, in 1940, he was driving down this road and he saw this massive bird feasting on roadkill or something, and it took off. He estimated the wingspan was like 15, 16 feet across. He said it had kind of a hooked beak like a raptor and dark color, and its wings seemed a little bit thin, even though they were very long but narrower. But what's really weird is that Lyman described that this bird actually took off into the trees, not over the trees, but kind of turned at an angle, and he was amazed at how gracefully, you know, it flapped its wings a couple of times and just kind of sailed off into the trees. Well, this was the impetus for Lyman to go on and investigate other Thunderbird sightings and to document them in his 1973 book, Amazing Indeed. So, so yeah, this is one of the accounts that I really think of in terms of, could there be something out here? Well, I'm looking around, and I mean, 1940 was obviously a long time ago, but the woods here are pretty damn thick. One other thing I'd like to say is that as we're filming this segment, there's a storm barreling down upon us. So we're kind of that's why we're kind of here right before the crack of sunup. And, obviously, as the name would indicate, these Thunderbirds of Native American legend are said to appear, during bad weather or kind of at the forefront of bad weather or storm fronts. So, whatever that means, maybe if these birds exist, maybe they take advantage of the thermal drafts and kind of the headwinds of these storm fronts. So pretty cool stuff.